Greetings, y'all. This is Pastor Raymond Bideau again. We've been trying to keep y'all updated and posted on the situation at La Bastille Ballet, where Pastor St.Luc, our national pastor, resides there with his family and the church that they have and been there for many years. So we're trying to keep you updated on all that. But I want to give just a little brief summary and send this out to some friends and different ones, pastors. To begin with, we had received news back in the earlier part of the week that these lawless gangs came into La Bastille. That's the village again where Pastor Luke resides, and we have a church there. And they just started killing people, just killing innocent people, victims they were. And they started burning houses. There's very few vehicles there, but what vehicles that were there, they burned them as well. And Pastor St.Luc and his family, they had to just leave immediately. The grace of Pastor St.Luc is that he lived down in a little valley, not right up in the village. Matter of fact, my wife, my family, we lived there for like 8 years right in that same area right there where Pastor St.Luc's at. So we know that area quite well. But Pastor St.Luc and his family, some of the church folks, they had to leave immediately and flee from their homes. And so they took the back trails. Now, as I just described to you, they didn't have time to grab a Bible. If he had any money in the house, he didn't have time to grab any of that. No clothes, no nothing. They fled with the clothes on their backs. There was a few that lived on further into the interior, away from the main part of the village. They was able to grab a few little things, but for Pastor St.Luc and his wife and the immediate family, they were not able to do so. So they went to the trails and they walked for miles. I know it's around 10 miles from there to Ballet, the closest bigger town, and they walked the back trails to the cane fields and all that. Then when they got close to Ballet, the nearest big town, they went on the backside away from the town, and then they had to cross this big wide river called the Boucan Carré. And they pole skipped across that, and after several trips, and then they walked again for many miles. I think a day or so they walked. Finally, they got far enough away from where the gangs were that they was able to catch a ride on a flatbed truck, as I understand it, and finally made their way up to the north in Haiti, a place called Ocap or Cape Haitian. And so they arrived there, and so they are safe. If I'm not mistaken, a pastor up there, or somebody at least, was gracious to let them use a empty building or house that they had, or building. And so they're all dwelling there. There's 30 of them there right now, family and friends that are dwelling there. Now they have no money. They hardly any clothes at all, and they're really in dire need. Now, since then, we've been in contact with Pastor St.Luc, and come to find out that one of the locals there that I personally know, Pastor St.Luc know, but they went and they held a gun to his head and told him, "We want to know who in this village has money. Where's the money at?" Well, the guy took him to Pastor St.Luc's house. Now, Pastor St.Luc pastors the biggest church in that whole area. I'm not talking about building-wise, although it is a big building. It's about 50 by 100. Pastor St.Luc just got through building a second loft because they run out of room in the church for everybody. And it was nearly completed. And the only thing left to do was a few windows. They're not glass windows. They're designed block to allow airflow, and a special type of block that they use for windows. It's all open air. I mean, I say open air. The church is open. It's a very primitive type structure. It is block. It has a tin roof and gaps in the between the upper plates and the roof to provide ventilation. And then those windows are designed to do the same, to provide ventilation. But anyhow, that's how they're built. But they have had to flee for all that for the sake of their lives. So they arrived in Cape Haitian. They're there now, and for a time. We don't know how long. We don't know if and when they'll ever be able to return to their village. The gangs are still there as we speak. But anyway, getting back to this man that they held a gun to his head, and so we want to, you take us to where the money person is. Well, they took him to Pastor St.Luc's place. Make a long story short, they Pastor St.Luc's house, his sons, his children, and all the houses in that little surrounding area there, they pillaged them. They destroyed the homes. They stole everything there was. They cleaned them out. Madam Pastor St.Luc had a little boutique or a little store where they sold stable goods to help finance, to provide some revenue for them. And they stole all that, destroyed everything. And then his vehicle, first they smashed the windows, the windshield and the windows out of his vehicle that he had. And then I just got news in the last couple hours, they went back there and took the vehicle completely. Apparently they got it started and they stole the vehicle. So basically they have nothing there now. They have nothing. And they have their lives. Praise God. They have their lives. They're alive. But they've lost everything. And again, they're in Cape Haitian. I want to say a little bit about Pastor St.Luc. Pastor St.Luc, he was discipled through this ministry. Back in 1987, I believe it were, we needed a pastor at La Bastille Ballet. My family and I were living there, running an orphanage, a children's home, and I was actually pastoring a Haitian church, but that was just until we could find somebody. Meanwhile, we have been preaching down in Cité Soleil, and this skinny fellow was there, a lay preacher in that church, and just full of fire and zealousness, and we were praying for a pastor. Make a long story short, we went down there and we looked them up. They were living in the slum area of Cité Soleil. I won't describe all that, but it's a very poverty-stricken area, Port-au-Prince. And we went there. And Pastor St.Luc, he came to the mountains where we were, and basically worked with us, became pastor. And then over the years, Pastor St.Luc, the Lord has greatly used him, not just to build the church in La Bastille Ballet, but God has helped him to build several churches. And I want to take my hat off to him, because I want to tell you right now, a lot of these pastors come to the States and they don't go back to Haiti. They don't go back. They stay here. Or sometimes they'll end up getting a job and having a place here, and they just visit back and forth occasionally. Sometimes there's some that have done that. Pastor St.Luc went back there, went back to Haiti. He has ministered and worked for the glory of God and the kingdom, and done all that he should be doing. On another note, I'll tell you this about Pastor St.Luc. We've been in Haiti working for many years, and I can tell you that Pastor St.Luc puts everything into the ministry. I see some come and go. They go back with a pocket full of money that they've received as donations from the churches. They end up with a new vehicle or a nice, better, bigger home. Pastor St.Luc lives in a little old humble block structure, very humble, very small, and all that money goes into church building and into helping his other preachers and pastors and different ones, and all that appertains to ministry there. He has invested it all. I take my hat off, because a lot of them don't do that, and Pastor Luke has been very faithful in that retrospect. So I want you to understand that. Now, where we're at now, Pastor St. Luc is there. His church folks, some of his church folks have been murdered. They've been killed by the gang. As far as we know right now, the church perhaps maybe has been looted. But other than that, I from what we gather and understand it, currently, the structure is still there intact. But here we are right now. I'll make no pretense about it. First of all, we ask you to pray for Pastor St. Luc, the churches there, the folks in La Bastille Ballet of Haiti. and we ask your prayer. And I'm also asking for those of you that possibly would. I'm especially speaking to you pastors out there. We're asking that you would consider prayerfully, think about taking up a special offering. And we want to try to give them some help in this time, this great time of need right now. So I'm sending this video out to y'all. And please pray if you can. If you would, pray about it. If you could send in a special offering, and we will wire that where Pastor Luke's at right now. He is able to receive wire transfers. We will wire the money, the funds to help right directly into him, to help him through this very, very difficult time right now. And that's what we're supposed to do. And so I'm putting this plea out right now to y'all, that if you would, pray about it. We still have our feeding programs also in the south, at Ile-Lavache in the south, and in Okai, in the south coast of Haiti. But Pastor St.Luc right now, they need help. They're in dire need. They left with nothing but the clothes on their back, and they need help right now. Our Christian brothers and sisters there, of like faith as we are, they are in dire need. And I just pray that maybe if the Lord would put it on your heart, and I don't mind asking for help in a great time of need like this. I don't mind it one bit. I find pleasure in it. We're doing all that we can do. We're a small ministry, Islander Evangelistic Ministries International, and we've been doing this for a lot of years. We lived in Haiti many, many years full time. We've been involved in Haiti ministry, 38 years, I think it is, something like that. We've been there working in Haiti a long time now, and it's our adopted country. And we love Haiti. That's where God sent us to minister and to work, and it just grieves our heart that for this to happen like it is. Haiti needs a lot of prayer, the whole country. These gangs have pretty well taken over Port-au-Prince, the capital city. The problem, the gangs have more firepower and more manpower than what the national police does. It's terrible. And they need divine intervention, and they need help from another country that would help them out in this situation. But anyhow, right now, immediately, we just ask for help for Pastor St.Luc, our Christian brothers and sisters there that are in dire need. And we just ask that you consider praying and helping them with the financial help right now, as the Lord would lay it on your heart. This is Pastor Raymond Bideau, and God bless you. And we'll have contact information associated with this video here. And we have a P.O. box in Cross City where we receive mission support. And we also have PayPal on our website. And then on top of all that, we have Cash App. We have different means to receive help that we'll go into the missions account, and then we go and we wire transfer to them, and they're able to receive that there where they're at in Cape Haitian. God bless you, and we covenant your prayer and your help. Pray for Pastor St.Luc, and pray for the Christians, brothers and sisters there in Haiti right now. God bless you. Until next time.